do that for a public hearing, though. Okay, so Greg, you're here. We're going to kick off this public rate hearing. 5:40.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Our next rate hearing will be in La Quinta after the board meeting. I think it's on March 5th or 6th. And then after that, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. So I have a brief presentation where I'll talk about the proposed adjustments that we're recommending for 2013. There will be no rate impact on our customers. They will continue to pay the rate that they are currently paying. And so what we are proposing is to keep the ECA rate at 3.24 cents. That's what it is currently. There would be no change to that. We propose to fully utilize the projected ECA overcollection. We're projecting that to be a little over $36 million. We're proposing to utilize almost $25 million of rate stabilization funds to keep the rate at 3.24 cents. And then the last thing, we're proposing to revise the formula to eliminate the component cost of energy of almost 1 cent. And in the next slide or two, I have the formula and the changes that we're proposing to the formula. But when you eliminate that 0.99 cents, that's a credit on the formula. So the reason why the rate is not going up is because you're using the overcollection monies and the rate stabilization monies to maintain that rate for 2013 only. So the board approved formula back in 2002, 11 years ago. It's the cost per kWh, which is C, and that is your energy cost plus or minus what's in the balancing account, less any wholesale energy sales, and that averages between 2.5 and 3.5 million a year. And you divide that over your projected kilowatt-hour sales. You come up with a rate, and then you reduce that rate by the 0.0099 cents, and that's what we're proposing to eliminate going forward, is to not reduce the calculation. It's never been clear to me, this is before my time, why that credit was in there. It has the effect of having the base rate subsidize the ECA by having it in there, and we think it makes it a whole lot clearer and easier to understand not to have that in there. So a little explanation of the definitions that go into this. The projected or actual energy cost. It's the cost of fuel used in generating plants. It's primarily our natural gas, but it is can be some oil and diesel fuel. It's our energy and purchase power cost, which are our purchase power contracts and transmission cost. Both of those are included. It excludes capacities, premiums, and the canal rental space or the falling water charge. So those costs are captured, or supposed to be captured through the base rate. The balancing account is the difference between ECA revenues billed and actual costs. That's the $36 million that's been overcollected. That will be returned to the customer in 2013. Projected revenue from wholesale sales, that does include energy sales, as I mentioned earlier. Plus, if we ever have excess gas, then that also is used to reduce the ECA calculation, the revenue from the gas sales. And then the kWh kilowatt hour sales is just what's forecasted. That's around 3.2 billion kWh on a yearly basis. And then the last thing that we're proposing to eliminate is the component cost of energy, roughly the 1 cent credit on the ECA calculation. This is the proposed change to the formula, just taking out the component B, which is the component cost of energy, or 1 cent, roughly 1 cent. And then for 2013, we're using overcollection monies and the rate stabilization money to maintain that ECA rate at 3.24 cents per kWh. So the impact of all these changes on our forecast, we'll have strong debt service coverage, 2.11. As I think you remember from past presentations, we want to keep that above 2. Keep it above 2. We think we have a good chance of not being downgraded. These changes, along with what else we have in the budget, helps us boost our forecast for unrestricted cash up to $132 million. Right now, I think we have $45 million in the OPEB account, which is really a very high percentage of unrestricted cash, so we need to increase the amount of cash that isn't dedicated to OPEB. The power supply forecast numbers is $253 million. The portion of that is applicable to the ECA is $175 million. The rate will be the 3.24 cents per kWh, and utilization of the rate stabilization fund, almost $25 million. Well, that's the extent of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
So it uses up, not a majority, but there was 34 million last year over collected. It uses up the majority of that?
It is forecast to use up all of the over collection from the ECA and 25 million of the rate stabilization.
Plus 25 million.
Plus 25, so 36
About
plus 25,
50.
61 million or so.
What's the difference in your budgeting for your ECA costs from last year to this year? What is the difference?
Between 12 and 13?
Cost of fuel?
I was going to ask Glenn about 12 and 13 ECA costs, actual ECA costs. For 13, it's 175 million. You remember what it was for 12?
Your blood pressure is going to go up.
I don't remember.
No, I'll stop by and get it.
Okay, we'll get it for you.
Public?
No, yeah, they can't tell me.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Public?
No, I just want to make sure that Mr. Pettis, are you with us, Mr. Pettis? Do you have any questions? Is it crystal clear? No. Oh.
Should be.
By the way, for those of you who do not know, Mr. Pettis is a long-standing member of our Energy Consumers Advisory Committee. He's actually one of the original members of the committee, dating back to several decades.
Decades. Yeah. The way I understand it, what you're going to do is you're not going to increase the base rate. Am I correct? Because the last time you were discussing, you were talking about increasing the base rate and reducing the energy cost adjustment factor. Am I correct?
Yes.
Will you defer to
Yes, sir.
So we are not proposing to make any changes to the base rate or the ECA rate. They'll stay the same for 2013.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear, because before you were trying to tell us that there not going to be any rate increases, yet you were increasing the base rate. And the reason why I'm very concerned is because I don't care whether you increase one at the bottom and reduce one at the top. When you increase the one at the bottom, which is the base rate, you go through all the trouble of going through an election. And once you increase it, that thing never goes down. I've never seen it go down. The other one on the top, the cost adjusting factor, of course, always fluctuates back and forth depending upon your need.
Supposed to.
So I never, that's why I'm constantly concerned about which factor you increase. If you're not increasing any factor, that's great. Thank you so much for doing that, because I was going to concern that at the ECA meeting, some of the members were proposing that you go ahead and make those adjustments. I voted against it, and several other people from here, from the Imperial Valley, voted against it. Some of the people from the Indio area did not. They voted in favor of. But since you don't have to increase it, that's even better. You're utilizing all the available funds, which you would have to return to the ratepayers anyway, so that's even better.
Hey, Gil, with as much time as you've spent over the years on the ECAC committee, what do you think is the disconnect between the representatives from the Imperial Valley and the representatives from the Coachella La Quinta area? How they're split in votes?
Well, first of all, they're appointed by members of their cities. That's strictly political over there. And they're more concerned with what's going on between IID rates and Southern Cal Edison, the adjacent company. And they don't want to get involved with the other company because, of course, the rates would go very, very high. And the other thing is that they're concerned, of course, is when the staff says that the whole IID infrastructure is ready to fall down and we don't increase the rates, well, they get very concerned because then it'll mean increasing the rates no matter what you say. So that's basically what it boils down to. And we went through this back in 1987, 80, 90, 97, 98, somewhere around there, where the staff came and told us that all of the poles in the IID were ready to fall down, that the woodpeckers had dug holes in them and they were ready to just fall down. And that was not true. Because we said, well, let's inspect them thoroughly. And it turns out that they did have some that needed to be replaced, but not all of them. And I always told them, I said, well, why don't you make a schedule of replacing so many each year so that you don't have to be worrying about trying to replace them all at one time. And so how the staff presents the information and how we receive it or understand it, that's what makes a difference. I take what the staff tells us and massage it, and then go and ask questions. And it turns out that a lot of the times, staff seems to be over exuberant as to what they want and how to get their increase in what they want. That's the way it was presented back in 1993. The whole IID infrastructure was needed to be replaced. And that was the last time that you guys increased 93, 94, the rate of 3.5, I think was the last rate increase you had. And the whole gist of the increase was to bring a power line from Arizona down to Devers over in the north end of the valley, Coachella Valley, which is the Palm Springs area. And there was no drops here. I mean, they weren't going to leave any power drops here. So when we questioned that, and approached the board members and they found out about it. I said, well, you know, that's not for us, it's for somebody else that they're talking about. And so that stopped the rate increase. Plus, we had a lot of ratepayers petition the board not to increase the rates. That's what stopped the rate increases.
So yeah, so where we're at today is no change in the rate structure. Right. But and actually it's a positive that's coming out of it. It's going to clean up the equation, the way they calculate that ECA for future understanding.
Been something that's very difficult to understand. I think it's getting easier, I think. Thank you.
Well, Gil, I just want you to understand that the reason this is not going up is because we are redistributing money that was over-collected using the ECA to make a wrong right.
Yes, I understand that, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, no, but it should have never happened.
Right, but it did.
But yes, it did.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Things happened, and we don't know until after they've happened, and then we try to make them right. The last meeting, I said, well, how are you going to justify increasing the rates to the ratepayers, the base rate to the ratepayers, when you have so many $1 million in over collection? I said, that's a real difficult hard sell. I said,
and that's what this is. It's being given back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Listo.
Mr. Hernandez, Johnny, you're on the ECAC also. You've had some questions on this in the past, and is this clear to you?
No. I got it done this I'm just learning, but I'm a quick learner, and I know how to add and subtract. And I know that this sounds good for this year, but I also am quickly seeing that we need to look towards tomorrow. We need to look a year from now. We need to look 5 years from now. And I'm glad to see that we have a cushion this year. But what are the projections, or what's the forecast for next year? Can anyone tell me that?
Well, the cheap energy or natural gas costs have caught everybody off guard in a positive way in the last couple of years. But
you need to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I would like to see.
But are we going to be okay next year, or are we going to be talking about this again next year, that we need to raise something?
I think when it was proposed, the ECA steps up every year over the next 5 years as we hit the thresholds for the RPS up to 33%.
The renewables.
Yeah, the renewables, because we have to buy more expensive power every year. There's a renewable component. That's the only thing going up.
And it'll go up next year?
That's my understanding. Belen?
Yeah. It will more than likely increase as our renewable requirements increase. So, I mean, you're comparing
I think
$90 per megawatt power compared to $35 per megawatt.
You were drawing down another 40 million next year or 50 million next year out of the rate stabilization fund.
But the reality is that we won't. It's not. Your board's made clear that you don't want to see any net impact to the ratepayer until the $100 million is completely extinguished. Right? So what's that mean for 2014?
2014, we believe there will be enough monies in rate stabilization fund to have a minimal impact on rates for 2014. If the board chooses to use all of the remaining $75 million that we're projected to have in the rate stabilization fund in 2014.
Okay, Greg, do you have any additional slides or presentation?
No, that was it.
I would ask to give me a breakdown on the energy supply costs from last year and this year.
Yes, we can do that.
I'm like Mr. Hernandez, I can add. And I've got some problems with the numbers, I'm saying. We're saying we're moving a cent into the base rate, replacing the 99 cents. That's about 34, 36 million. We're taking the full ECA out, okay, which is 36 million. So that's a little more than that 99 cent that was going in there. So how much is the rate increasing? Is it, pardon me, how much is the fuel cost increasing? Is it 24 million or is it 42 million?
You're asking about the power supply costs in 2013 over 2012?
Now, what I'm saying is we're putting into the IID, okay, by bringing in the rate stabilization money, okay, and the other, we're freeing up a lot of money. Okay, I know we have capital, but I want to know where it's going, where that's being allocated. Where's that 1 cent going to be allocated, and for what purposes? Okay.
We'll get you that analysis and show that to you.
Because keep in mind there was 17 million that we removed out of that 99 cents that went to a balancing authority fund. Okay, had we not put that there, we would have had another overcollection this year of 17 million. So that's what I'm saying. You know, I'm having a hard time with it. What I'm having a hard time with is the amount of money we're taking out of the rate stabilization fund.
The 25.
I don't understand that.
The 25 million.
Yeah.
So what we need to show you is what the 25 million is going to pay for in 2013.
Well, if I see where those costs are, okay, you know, we're fixing the base rate again. I mean the ECA, but I want to see what those costs are. What's driving those costs? Okay, because it could easily be an overcollection again. You know, if this is the case, if we're going to eat that all up, why aren't we just floating it? Why fix it for the whole year?
Well, my understanding was the board wanted to keep it at 324. We will be doing a calculation every month that shows what the actual ECA rate.
Well, you could keep it at the 3.24 and pull out, but you're saying you're pulling out 24. I'd like for it to pull out what it actually needs and get this thing floating.
Well, that's what we'll do. I mean, if the board says keep it at 324, we'll only pull out what is needed to keep it at 324. And then the rest will go into an over or under collection.
It's not going to exceed 3.24. What happens if you get down the road and it's determined that you're over collecting? Then what are you going to do?
Yeah. So what you need to see is the increase in power supply costs 2013 over 2012, and what the 25 million in rate stabilization funds are going to go pay for.
Yeah.
Well, plus the 36, right?
Well, we know what the over collection is for. That matches up roughly with the 0.99, right?
Yeah.
See, that 3.24 would have been reduced by 17 million if we hadn't put it in that balancing authority.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'll stop by and talk to you guys about what my concerns are.
So are you saying that the 0.99 and 36 million, we've actually added that much to the capital project within the IID? It's going back into the base rate, right?
Yes.
And that's not coming out of the rates, out of the balancing authority fund or anything like that?
No, the board has to take action to take it out of the balancing authority fund.
Part of it's got to cover commercial paper. Sure.
Okay.
How much commercial paper we've got to cover it back?
Well,
you'll roll it into a bond.
Bond, well, that
Yeah.
that becomes more expensive when we take it out for 30 years.
Okay.
Okay, that'll conclude our rate hearing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Greg.